Hey, what's going on, sports fans? My name is TJ Jones, and welcome to another edition of the Gumbo Pot Sports Podcast, where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all of sports. Also, want to give a special shout out to everybody that's checking this out on the State of the Saints podcast channel. If you have not already, if you can subscribe to the Gumbo Pot Sports Podcast channel for your up to date information on other sports that are going on. But on this edition, we're going to be talking about the conference championship. As we know what teams are going to be representing the NFC and the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I'm here to talk about these games. And I'm this is like about as fresh as you can possibly be of watching a game. I mean, I have so many different mixed emotions, especially about the NFC championship game. I just cannot believe my eyes. I just can't. I cannot believe that the Detroit Lions are not on their way to the Super Bowl. Absolutely heartbreaking. Like, I wouldn't wish what happened to the Detroit Lions on my worst enemy. I'm serious. Like, I can only imagine what a Detroit Lions fan is feeling right now. The fact that your team had a 17-point lead going into halftime and you had an opportunity to really seal the deal. But a couple of miscues and just bad coaching mistakes has cost this team an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Unbelievable stuff. Unfreaking believable, man. I mean, when you think about where the Detroit Lions have been as a franchise, a team that has never went to the Super Bowl, a team that has struggled throughout the years just to find 8 wins for the most part. You finally are on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, and everything is going right. And then all of a sudden, it just collapses. I mean, it was like one of those double takes like you used to see on them cartoons when they used to be like this. That's kind of how I felt. Like how in the world did you squander this? But we're going to get into that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the first game, which was the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Baltimore Ravens in M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, came into the game red hot. Everybody expected pretty much for them to go ahead and, go to the Super Bowl. They had the right pieces. They had the right players. They had everything going for them. Lamar Jackson was playing at an MVP level. And you had Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs coming in for the very first time as an away team in an AFC championship for Patrick Mahomes. And just thought that this was going to be the culmination of all the hard work and dedication getting to this point for the Baltimore Ravens. And I couldn't tell you what happened. I really couldn't. I just think that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens picked the worst time to have one of their worst games. But you can also give credit where credit is due to Steve Spagnuolo and the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs, a defense that has been carrying this team throughout the season. But of course, a lot of people weren't talking about it because Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. And that's not taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes. I know how it goes, folks. When people start winning a lot, all of a sudden everybody got a problem with it. People are happy to see him come in. Yeah, they'll welcome you into the room if this is your first time. But when they start to see you a little bit too often, people start cutting their eyes and like, oh, here they go again. And I feel like that is what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But I can tell you this, I respect greatness. I respect the guy who goes out there and plays at a high level. And no matter what type of team that you put together, rather it's a team that's going to be led by defense and some mediocre quarterbacks, he still gets it done. No matter if you're telling him that he has to go on the road and have two road playoff games in order for him to get to the Super Bowl, he exceeds expectations. I ain't got a problem with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think that people that have an issue with him is probably because they see him too much. But you see them too much because they're a really good football team. And they proved it today because everybody thought Baltimore was going to win this football game, probably for the exception of a few Kansas City Chiefs fans and especially all the people in Kansas City. But they were able to neutralize Lamar Jackson. They confused him. They were able to keep him in a pocket, he made some plays with his legs, but it wasn't anything that was just so detrimental to the Kansas City Chiefs. And they allowed him to make plays or try to make plays from the pocket. And give credit to Lamar Jackson. He made a few throws. He had that big pass to Zay Flowers to respond for the Kansas City, scoring on their first drive. And, the game was pretty much, a little back and forth. And you seen Kansas City kind of pull away, but Baltimore, a few missteps that cost them this game. You think about Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers was able to catch a deep pass, but he couldn't get his emotions in check. Instead, he decides to taunt the cornerback, and he sets his team back. They lose 15 yards. He gains them back, but then he catches a pass and tries to lunge himself into the end zone. He ends up getting the ball fumbled and he's getting stripped going through the end zone for a touchback. So you get absolutely nothing on that. And I felt bad for Zay Flowers because he's a rookie. He's starting to make plays. He's starting to emerge as the number one target for Lamar Jackson. And he's doing all the things that you need in a wide receiver for him to be one of the best of the best. But this is just growing pains for Zay Flowers. And then you also got to think about that ugly interception that Lamar Jackson threw to triple coverage. I don't know, man. I understand that's Isaiah Likely and he's a touchdown machine, but why are you throwing the ball into triple coverage? I mean, why are you trying to make the play? I mean, you got to live to fight another day and take what the defense gives you. So I just think that the Baltimore Ravens, they really wanted this football game badly. They wanted to win this football game. You can tell. I mean, it was chippy from the time Patrick Mahomes was warming up and you had Travis Kelce throwing Justin Tucker's helmet and footballs out of the way so Patrick Mahomes can warm up. You had Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith going at it with Travis Kelce. I mean, these guys really wanted it. And you can tell, like, every little mistake that they made, I mean, it excited some type of emotion. And you can see the tears in the eyes of Lamar Jackson after they lost that football game. Zay Flowers, to me, after he fumbled that football, he was never the same, in my opinion. He was kind of soaking on the sidelines. But, give credit to Odell Beckham Jr. He grabbed him. He whispered some positive energy into him, and that's what's up right there. The Baltimore Ravens, they'll be back. But you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they're just a really good football team. I mean, that's all there is to it. They're a really good football team, and they have a quarterback that is the best of his generation. So for people that may think that, somebody's going to dethrone this guy and they're not going to go back to the Super Bowl for many years, I don't see that happening. I mean, anything that the Kansas City Chiefs put together, he seems to always find a way to make it happen. And you have to be impressed because if you look at the NFL, when it comes to elite quarterback play, the majority of those quarterbacks play in the AFC. But Patrick Mahomes always seems to be the last man standing. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on a remarkable season. They're on their way back to the Super Bowl, trying to do the back-to-back thing, but they will be facing a team that they faced before for Patrick Mahomes to get his first NFL championship, which is the San Francisco 49ers. And if you would have asked me 2 hours ago what I that the San Francisco 49ers are going to be in the Super Bowl, I would have hit the Bishop Bowinkle and said, hell to the no. I mean, not the way that they played, because they came up against a Detroit Lions team. To me, in my opinion, I said it on the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast pregame show leading up to the championship games, that the Detroit Lions are playing with house money. They're playing with house money. I mean, nobody really expected them to go into Santa Clara and win the football game. But it's one thing for you to be playing with house money. It's another thing for you to be playing and winning, with your own money here. I mean, they were money at the beginning of the game. I mean, they started off red hot. You had a Jameson Williams touchdown. They came up 7-0. And it seemed like the 49ers didn't have an answer for anything they were doing. They were able to neutralize some of the playmakers of the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey was having a slow start. Deebo Samuels wasn't really that effective. George Kittle didn't have any targets. So it just seemed like everything was going the way of the Detroit Lions. They were going up and down the field. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs running the football, catching the ball out of the backfield. David Montgomery running in between the tackles. The offensive line of the Detroit Lions were just bullying the defensive line of the 49ers. It just seemed like destiny was on the side of the Detroit Lions. But no offense to the Detroit Lions fans, you picked the wrong time Detroit to be the Detroit Lions. I mean, in the second half, the 49ers came out. To me, still, they still were searching for answers because they were able to drive the ball down the field, but they weren't able to be that effective. And you can see Kyle Shanahan whispering into Brock Purdy's ear, trying to, come up with a game plan because they did not have any answers. To me, you have to look at head coach Dan Campbell for some of those decisions. And look, I understand, right? I understand being aggressive. I have no problem with that, right? Ain't nothing wrong with living on the edge of a lightning bolt. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being a maverick, a rebel. There's nothing wrong with that. But there comes a time when you just got to take the damn points. 4th and 2, you try to go for it. Should have got it. I will say, to be fair, they should have got it. Josh Reynolds had Orville Redenbacher butter on his hand for some apparent reason, and he just drops the football. I mean, if your coach is going to instill this level of confidence inside of you, if he's going to believe in you so much, how about letting him off the hook? But Josh Reynolds dropped the ball, and then you had a desperation pass by Brock Purdy. I mean, this was pure desperation. Eric, now I know what the future, and when we read about this game, you're going to think about that classic Lynn Swine catch against the Dallas Cowboys. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of you young folks like, what the hell is he talking about? But there's this play that Lynn Swine caught the ball where, the ball popped into the air and he dived and he caught it. It's a classic play. You basically got that with Brandon Ayuk. The cornerback I can't think of his name, but the cornerback for the Detroit Lions. This man had the ball in his hands, and the ball just bounces off his helmet, goes into the air, and Brandon Ayuk just makes a diving catch. Pure desperation. But that's all they needed. That's all they needed in order for them to build some level of momentum. So they get the touchdown. And the next thing you know, I mean, they were hitting them out. And it's like they had no answer for it. It's like they were so dazed and confused. It's almost like a boxer who gets hit behind the ear and it messes up the equilibrium. Like it's like one of those. Like, yeah, he's fighting, but he's punch drunk. And it just seemed like the Detroit Lions could not get back to form after that. The 49ers were able to do whatever they wanted to do because it was pure panic at this point. And then you had Dan Campbell, who not only did he not learn from his mistake, but he doubled down on it. You go for it on a 4th and 3 when you had an opportunity for a 48-yard field goal. It's not like your kicker was missing field goals. I mean, the guy was making them and kicking them straight up the middle. So instead of you going for 3, instead you do it again. So when they turn over the ball on downs, that's more momentum that you're actually giving to your opponent. And the 49ers just went down the field, kicked the field goal, took the freaking lead. Like, what in the world is going on here? And the Detroit Lions never recovered from that. Now, I know some people will say, Dan Campbell, it's just his fault. No, it's not solely on Dan Campbell. You got to look at Josh Reynolds. To me, it'll be a miracle that he gets on a flight to go back to Detroit because you had an opportunity on 3rd down. He was wide the freak open, and he drops the football. That 4th and 2, he drops the freaking football. So once again, you got to help your coach out. If he's out there to put himself on the line and get scrutiny, thrown towards him, if you don't make it, at least make him right. But this has been the Detroit Lions all season long. They have been known for going for it and being super aggressive. But sometimes, it's okay to just take the points. It's okay to not be so aggressive. I said it's a fine line between being aggressive and being reckless. And I just feel like some of the decisions that Dan Campbell made, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, down the stretch were just reckless. And it's okay to stay true to yourself, but this isn't just a regular game. This is in week 7. You have an opportunity to do something that your franchise has never done, and that is go to the freaking Super Bowl. You got to just play that thing by ear. And I want to put this into perspective. If Dan Campbell would have kicked a field goal on at least one of the 2 fourth down that he tried to convert, then it would have been tied at 34 when Jameson Williams caught that pass off Jared Goff. So, worst case scenario, you would be going into overtime with the 49ers. And the 49ers have shown that they couldn't really stop you. A lot of the times, the reason why Detroit didn't convert was because the wide receivers dropped the ball. They just dropped the ball. It had nothing to do with them getting pressure on Jared Goff. Jared Goff was virtually clean throughout the game. They had a couple sacks where Nick Bosa, took him down. I think he may have took him down twice. But for the most part, the offensive line of the Lions were protecting Jared Goff. He was able to go through his progressions 2, maybe even 3 times sometimes. And he was able to make those plays. So it's not like the 49ers were just some world beaters or something. A lot of the times they didn't convert because the wide receivers dropped the football. So it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this. I just feel so awful for Detroit Lions fans. If you're a Detroit Lions fan watching this podcast right now, watching this video, I feel so bad for you because, number one, you deserve better. You deserve better than the coaching calls down the stretch. And I think about guys like Ben Johnson, who more than likely is going to be the head coach of the Washington Commanders next season. I think about Aaron Glenn. You got to think about his future as the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions here, because you look at the Detroit Lions. I mean, they had a really tough time throughout the entire season stopping anybody. They struggled with tackling. They struggled in the secondary. So maybe the Detroit Lions may be looking in a different direction, because this is another season which the defense just, came up a little bit short. And it just was one of those times where you needed the defense to really step up to try to control the 49ers for the momentum to just not to get out of control. And it did just that. So the 49ers are on their way to Super Bowl 58, along with the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch from Super Bowls a couple of years ago where Patrick Mahomes got his first Super Bowl championship. These two teams are really good. They're really talented. One team had to go on the road twice in the Kansas City Chiefs to get their ticket punched to the Super Bowl. And then you have the San Francisco 49ers, who have been knocking on the door for many years under head coach Kyle Shanahan, which I was going to say if he would have lost that football game, we would have had to talk about Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan is starting to look like the modern day Marty Schottenheimer. So I'm glad he was able to, get through that, because I was going to have something to say about him if they didn't make that Super Bowl with a number 1 seed and, playing a team that is not really good defensively, really good offensively, but not good defensively. So that's your conference championship. So I'll go ahead and read some of your comments. Thank you all for being here. And let me read some of this stuff here. Let's see. Detroit hasn't had a collapse this big since the auto industry left the city. Yeah, that was a collapse. That was an epic collapse. That was like Atlanta Falcon type collapsing right there. That was, it was tied before you even thought. Like, it was like unbelievable. Like, I tell y'all what I was doing. So I was upstairs in my house. I was folding towels. I'm folding towels. I'm up there with my son Paxton. Some of y'all, if you watch the State of the Saints podcast, my 4-year-old son Paxton. So he's up there with me watching the game. I'm folding towels. I'm like, man, Detroit is like really about to do this thing. All of a sudden, like, I pick up some towels and I bring them, into like my bathroom, right? And I'm putting towels in areas and shells and all that kind of stuff. And I come back, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what, like, how do we get to this point? Like, that was freaking unbelievable. I was like, man, I was flabbergasted. Like, how in the world are the Detroit Lions not in the Super Bowl right now? Like, how? Somebody explain it to me, because I have absolutely no idea how this is happening. Like, I don't. Like, maybe somebody got some answers, but I clearly don't. You know what happened, TJ? The NFL happened. Ravens were rolling. All of a sudden they fell apart. Look, I'm gonna say this. Look. There was some calls in that Kansas City game that I feel like were warranted. Right, I do. But there was some calls that the Kansas City Chiefs defenders were doing, the pass interference, the holding, the illegal contact was not called in the game. And I mentioned this on X. You can follow me at TJAY Jones 8. But I mentioned this. I said it's hard to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and the refs. And look, we all know how it goes when the NFL has their golden boys, right? There's those quarterbacks, those players that they try to protect at all costs because it is beneficial to their bottom line that these guys are upright. And it just so happened that Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys. So, of course, he's going to get that preferential treatment. Now, they were teeing off on dude. Like, I'm serious, man. I was wondering, was Greg Williams the defensive coordinator? Like, I'm wondering, like, are they getting $20,000 per hit? Or, like, what is going on here? Like, they were teeing off on Patrick Mahomes. So, there had a few of those unnecessary roughness calls were warranted. But there were plays where I'm just watching Kansas City players. I'm like, man, that's about to be a flag. Nothing at all. And I can understand why a Baltimore Ravens fan would be upset tonight at the way that the officiating was called. But I will say this, that had absolutely nothing to do with why the Baltimore Ravens lost. And I feel like if you're listening to this tonight and you're a Baltimore Raven fan and you're saying that the referees were the reason you lost that football game, then that is just something that you're saying just to put your mind at ease. Because I'm telling you right now, the referees, they probably, if I can put a percentage on the blame, I would probably put it at like 5%. You had opportunities. I'm talking Baltimore. Baltimore had opportunities to win this football game. You had opportunities to tie this football game. But there were some great plays that were made by Kansas City and some mistakes that were made by quarterback Lamar Jackson, trying to push the issue a little bit too hard. And you caused your team this a chance at the Super Bowl. So that's what I'm gonna say about that. But yes, there's some preferential treatment going on with Patrick Mahomes, but that's not the reason why. That's not the reason why they lost. I just want to make that very, very clear. Let me stroll up a little bit. It says it wasn't the call. This was a badly executed game. Says Axe a Bum. Thank you for the $2. What game exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about the Baltimore Ravens game? Or are we talking about the San Francisco 49ers game? Let's see. Flowers fumble. That was it right there. Like Zay Flowers fumbling, and then the next drive you had Lamar Jackson throwing the ball into triple coverage. Like, what in the world? Like, how did you, like, first off, I don't know, man. Like, you got some real true gunslingers out there that can't make that throw. I don't know exactly what he saw. I think I kind of know what he was trying to do. He was trying to put the ball up a little bit high, but I just feel like he was just kind of off the mark. And I don't know if he actually seen the defender like coming across the field. It just was not a good pass. It was not a good pass at all. But that fumble by Zay Flowers, that pretty much sealed the deal for him. Let's see. Kansas City defense surprisingly played a good game. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs defense they've been a catalyst for this team the entire season. I don't know if you've been watching or not, but the Kansas City Chiefs defense has kept them in games. They're the reason why they're at this point. I mean, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, their offense has not been good. These wide receivers have been dropping passes all season long. Like, you had the clutch catch by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, if this would have been around week 7, that ball would have bounced off that boy's chest. They cannot catch. They've been struggling this entire season offensively because their wide receivers cannot catch. But for some apparent reason, they've been coming on as of late and in the postseason. So I don't know if they having some late after hours practices or I don't know what the heck going on. But they look a lot better and more formidable during this playoff run than they did at any time during the season. and their defense has been legit all season. Like their defense is the one that led them to this point. And that's probably, what's best, because you know that you have a really good quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. But I think it alleviates some of the pressure off of Patrick now that he knows that I ain't just got to go out here and be perfect. Y'all know how I go, man. If some of you watching on the State of the Saints podcast, all those years where Drew Brees didn't have a defense, and you had all this pressure on him to basically be perfect. Like if Drew wasn't throwing for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, then more than likely the Saints ain't gonna be able to do anything. They ain't gonna be able to stop anybody. So now that they have a defense, I'm talking Kansas City. Now Patrick Mahomes can feel a little bit loose and don't feel like he got to be perfect every game. Kansas City is the number 2 ranked scoring defense all season, having given up 30 points all season. Exactly. They're a good football team. I just think that people are so used to Kansas City putting up a bunch of points, and now that just became a little bit of the status quo. But this has not been the case this season. Yo Jerry G, hope you're good. Says I haven't been following the Chiefs. Yeah, I can understand that. Most teams, like when you don't follow them, but they have like this certain stigma about them. Like people have a tendency of kind of following that. Like Kansas City is known for their offensive efficiency and high-powered offense. So if you haven't been watching them, you would think that things is it's business as usual, but not the case this year. Not at all. Let's see. Michael Thomas replied to you, dog. You done made it. Look, man. Shouts out to Michael Thomas, man. Shouts out to Michael Thomas. Look, I ain't got no problem with Michael Thomas speaking his mind. I ain't got no problem with that at all. I just feel like some people on social media, I don't know if they just do these things like just to try to get attention on themselves. But you have people out here having a problem with this man expressing himself. And I just think that's just hypocrisy of the highest order. Like Saints fans always, talking about, oh, the quarterback ain't good, the coach ain't good. We need to do this, that, and the third. But then a player comes out and he basically validates how you feel about the team. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, no, we don't want to hear that. We can say it, but he can't. This is a guy who is a free agent, can go anywhere he wants to go. This is a guy who feels like he has something to say. And who are we to stop him for saying what he want to say? Now, some people would say, and I didn't respond to this because I know I was going to do it on a podcast. There are some people that feel like, well, Michael Thomas wanted Derek Carr here. He said, thank you, Jesus, when he got signed. Now, I want to make something very, very clear to folks. How many times in life, because I know that we look at these players as being, larger than life deities, if you will, right? But how many times in your life have you been excited about a certain thing, thinking that it's going to pan out the way that you want to, only for it to end in disappointment? So what did you do? Did you stay in the same situation? Did you not admit that this thing did not happen? Like, what exactly did you do? Now, if you have any type of sense whatsoever, you'll say that you made a mistake, or you will say that it didn't pan out the way that you wanted to pan out. The people that are saying that Michael Thomas shouldn't say anything about Derek Carr after he has a large enough sample size and a personal relationship that he established with him, that he is not it. How can you possibly get mad at a dude for that? How? You're supposed to shut up when things ain't going, this is what you wanted. Well, if you buy a shirt from the store and it don't fit, are you going to say, well, I went to the store and got it? Or are you going to say, man, I'm about to take this thing back, I need my money back? Or are you going to call a spade a spade? The man calling a spade a spade. And we also have this tendency of always feeling like the truth has to come in this beautiful package. Gift wrap from Macy's, gift wrap from J.C. Penney, gift wrap from Dillard's during Christmas time. Look, a drunken fool can tell you the truth outside a corner store. This man can tell you about his life So all of a sudden, like Michael Thomas, he has a couple of bad years and, he's been hurt. And all of a sudden, like just because he's been hurt, he can't tell you how he feels. So his word means absolutely nothing because he's been hurt over the last couple of years. So he should be quiet. He shouldn't have nothing to say at all. Like somebody tell me, what type of logic is this? You don't apply these type of principles in your own life. So why should you expect anybody else to do this? We hold other people to a standard we don't even live up to. If you apply logic the way that you live your life, then I promise you, some of the things that will come out some of you people's mouth will never be said. So yes, maybe the man was excited that Derek Carr was going to come here, but that doesn't mean that he can't change his mind about it. Hell, you did. Don't tell me, oh man, no, but you had a few people out here that said the Saints ain't gonna do nothing with Derek Carr. But for the most part, including myself, we were on board saying that this guy can actually do something. When it was proven that he left a lot to be desired, when we seen it with our own two eyes, we switched accordingly. So how is it that a guy who is in the facility every single day with this guy, he can't say anything, but we're supposed to listen to people that don't even know this dude? So what gives you the right to say that the guy isn't good enough? What gives you the right to say that he leaves a lot to be desired, but Michael Thomas can't because I guess what? Because he have an ankle injury? Well, some of us, well, not some, all of us never played a damn down in the National Football League. So if anybody has any right to say anything, it's Michael Thomas. So for all the people out there that got a problem with it, too damn bad. And I'm going to say this to you before we go back into the comments. You are the reason why the Saints can run the organization the way that they do, because you're always trying to defend this organization, not even realizing that this organization has you with what I like to call Saints Stockholm Syndrome. I'm not just saying that to say it. Some of you will defend this organization. Some of you are showing love for this organization that they ain't even showing love to you. Like you're showing more love for them than they are showing for you. You got a GM chewing gum disrespectfully at the press conference as if the media and your feelings, because the media represents you, your feelings are obsolete. It don't matter. But y'all still sitting up here talking about, well, Michael Thomas, he unprofessional. And what are the Saints? You know what I'm saying? What are the Saints when they act as if the people don't matter? It's not a big deal we don't buy tickets to the game. It's not a big deal that we have a problem with Dennis Allen. Like, none of that stuff matters. But you still sit up here, want to go and be keyboard warriors, broadband bloods, and cyber crips, talking on social media, talking all rough and tough and like you can't get enough for an organization that will keep an inept coach around just to try to prove that they're right. And some of y'all, like the sheep you are, sit up here and try to validate the ineptitude of this organization. But y'all got a problem with Michael Thomas. Give me a freaking break. Give me a freaking break, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all got to be crazy. Thank you, TJ, but you don't call Mickey a boy. Well, you know what I'm talking about. You know, I didn't mean like a boy. I mean like, that boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean like I know you're a grown man. Like somebody, man, that boy there. But I'm just saying, the reality is he sits up there at the podium and just like nobody, like, I'm not going to sit up here on the platform here on the State of Saints and Gumbo Pot and just chew gum. Like, I don't know. I didn't mean it. You know what I'm talking about. Like Mike Evans, boy is a white racist. DA should have been fired 2 seasons ago. I don't know about 2 seasons ago, man, but well, I guess so. If we're going into the next season, I guess you're right. Let's see. Number 13 said what he said and didn't need a mouthful of gum to do it. I didn't think Carr was an upgrade from Winston at the time, but seems like the organization is fully behind Carr. Well, they ain't got no choice. I mean, they don't have a choice. And I mean, you look around the entire NFL, you look around the NFC South. I mean, people are changing, man. You got new coaches, you got new philosophies that's coming in, and man, the Saints got to be careful. And also, Mike T mentioned, the team having a hard time getting an offensive coordinator. Like, why are they having such a hard time? And you like, and you got people up here like, come on, man. Like, people going at it and saying and trying to go at Michael Thomas is equivalent to you living in your house and somebody walking up in there telling you that, nah, man, this ain't it. Like, look, let moving your tape. Like, how can you tell somebody what to do in their house? How can you you don't know what a light switch at? You don't know all the electrical sockets are. You don't know how to get everywhere within a house. This man is in the building. I always say this. If I'm going back and forth with somebody, I will always concede to the person that has the personal experience, that's been around, that's done it. Like, who am I to argue with somebody? Who am I to argue with somebody that has that level of experience? If they say something and they around, like, what am I to say? But we sitting up here, man, nah, you just mad. What? This man is in the organization. He sees what we don't see. So why are we sitting up here going back and forth? Like, come on, man. That, like I said, that's when it just starts to switch off from you just trying to make a point to you just trying to be right. And you're willing to do anything that it takes. And then you got some people that are just contrarians. Like, if I say it's cold outside, they're going to say it's hot, right? Because I guess they're going to feel like their comments stand out. Like, if you're moving like that, I got to tell you. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, you need like some real serious talking to, because you having a hard time feeling like you matter. But I just want to let you know, if you're moving like that, and I'm saying this wholeheartedly, this is not a joke. You matter. You matter. All right. You don't have to resort to contrarian type rhetoric, nonsensical things just to try to stand out. You can be yourself and still stand out. All right. I just want to make that very, very clear. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit more. Mike, Alvin, and Lattimore is burnt out on this organization. We are headed in the wrong direction with DA and Loomis at leadership. Well, I don't know. I feel this way. If Dennis Allen can't get it together in 2024, there's like, you're really like, you got Saints fans out there that are saying that they gonna give up on the team. But I'm telling you, if he tries, I'm talking about like, if they have another season like this and they don't make the playoffs, and they was fighting hard down the stretch, and Mickey Loomis tries to do that, look, people are going to completely tune out. Like, seriously, they're gonna move on to something completely different, because you have basically conceded that you're just okay with just being okay. Like, there's no excuse. There's no excuse, honestly, for him to even be the coach this year. But it's just Mickey Loomis trying to prove that he's right about something. But if you try to sell this dude after another season, like, you're really gonna lose fans. Like, people are gonna be like, it's rather him or us. And Gail Benson and Dennis Lodge are gonna really have to make a decision where they talk to Mickey Loomis and tell him he got to step down. Like, they're really gonna have to make that type of decision, because it seems to me like, even by listening to Mickey Loomis, it seems like it's not so much about a GM trying to make things better, but it sounds like a general manager slash shareholder going to war with the fans. Like, this isn't about wins and losses to me right now. On the surface, I guess it is, but to me, it's more like Mickey Loomis trying to prove to everybody that hiring Dennis Allen wasn't a mistake. It's rather you got it or you don't. It's rather you're good at what you do or you're not. Right? You can't just prop a guy up and try to dress him up and try to make him look the part. There's going to come a time when he's really going to have to be the part, and he won't be. So that's why I'm telling everybody, no matter what you do, no matter who you bring in, you're basically just dressing this guy up, because if one of those blocks or those, or those little bricks fall out, all of a sudden, the empire gonna come crashing down. So it's best for you to, fix it. LOL, I checked out already. I'm here for yo. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're gonna have more and more fans just like you that checked out. When I heard we interviewed OC, let's see, Pittsburgh OC, I knew we were in trouble. I'm gonna tell you this, Pammy. When you start to see like coaches go like a revolving door, to me, it's like those guys, they're having a hard time. Like, that's why I was saying, like, are they having a hard time finding the right guy, or just the fact that they really doing their due diligence? To me, I feel like nobody wants to commit to him, so they got to continue like to, get these different guys in here. And I don't know, man. You know what type of quarterback you got, and you know what you need in order for him to succeed. At least you should. And it shouldn't take that long. And then when you start going after young guys and older guys, you look around the landscape of the National Football League, the most people that they interviewing for OC jobs, they kind of got the same type of trend, right? The young 30-somethings. So you'll start to see Gerard Johnson name come up, Dan Pitcher name come up, Zach Robinson name come up, Ben Johnson name come up, like the same guys around that age range. But when you look at the Saints, they interviewed all those guys, and then they interviewed some seasoned veterans. Now they interviewing Gerard Johnson. Like, what are you actually doing here? Is it the fact that you just trying to get it right, or the fact that guys are saying thank you, y'all giving me something to think about, and then the next thing you know, you're looking at Ian Rappaport say that the guy that you just interviewed is going to coach blase. So I'm just wondering, like, is there an issue? It seems like it is, though. I'm be for real. We couldn't beat the 49ers. Nah, I don't think. It would have been. Nah, it would have been interesting. It would have been interesting. Like, I don't feel like the 49ers would have blew out the Saints. Honestly, I don't feel like any team would have blew out the Saints. I don't. I don't feel like any team would have blew them out. I feel like if they lost, it probably would have been close. Or, like, it would have looked close, because y'all know, around the time when they're getting slapped around, that's when they start playing desperate football and making the score look more respectable than what the game actually was. But y'all know. It's not going to be a long show, folks. I'm going to take a few more, and then I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Been a long day. TJ, you said that the Saints are sold on Carr. Or is there a chance of the Saints packing a deal where they move Carr to a sucker team called Vikings? Absolutely not. Look, I understand. People want to see this guy go. Some people feel like this guy isn't the answer, but the Saints are contractually obligated to this guy to at least next year in 2025. So strap in, Who Dat Nation. I mean, he's going to be here for a while. So we're going to have to find ways to win with him, or try to find ways to try to come up with a succession plan, after you decide to rid yourself of him. So I don't see that happening, man. He's here. He's here to stay for the time being. So you might as well just live with it for right now. Absolutely, TJ. We needed the position filled before the Senior Bowl. Nobody. I'm comfortable with saying this. Nobody wants to join themselves to Derek Carr and Dennis Allen. Now, I can't even say until they prove me otherwise, because it's already been proven. You had some highly touted offensive coordinators / coaches that had opportunity to come to the New Orleans Saints to align themselves with Dennis Allen to be able to work alongside Derek Carr, and they chose not to. So I don't think it's wrong for me to say that they're having a hard time because nobody wants to commit to Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. I just don't. Like, some people might say, well, that ain't true, TJ. That ain't right. Why so many different interviews and no luck? I'm just saying, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. And just because people say no, it's not, or they try to come up with these compelling arguments. I'm just saying, why is it that they're having such a hard time, and why haven't they found the guy yet? And if that's the case, why are you like basically hiring guys or trying to go after guys that have a track record of not really being that successful? So you basically get middle of the pack offensive coordinators. And with that, like I, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna be. uh, I'm laughing because I just thought about something. I gotta say this: if you are advocating for Dennis Allen to not be the Saints head coach, this is what you want. Like, seriously, this is what you want. You want them to have a long, drawn out process where they basically digging into the bottom of the toy chest in order for no disrespect to anybody, but I guess if you're looking at like the top offensive coordinators and there's a pecking order to it, they digging at the bottom, right? They basically got to the sale late. Y'all ever went to a store like a outlet store or a mall or something like that, and you know they was gonna have a sale, but you overslept, and then you got there and they still got some nice stuff there, but it ain't your size. They got one small there, and you're a large or a medium. Like there's never your size. Y'all know how it is. It's always that nice shirt, but it being extra small because very few people wear extra small. Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. You always show up to the sale late. You're like, oh man, dang, I knew they had a large in my size. That is what they're doing right now. The Saints are trying to buy the X small t-shirt. And if you want Dennis Allen to be gone, this is probably what you want. You probably want them to go with somebody that's probably had a track record of not being that successful and aligning them with Dennis Allen, because basically you just got, I guess like a rebranding of a Pete Carmichael type offense, right? So if you want Dennis Allen to be gone, this is probably what you want, because they're not getting, they're not getting like the creme de la creme here, like you getting great value, right? You're getting, like I say, no disrespect to him. I'm just looking at it when it comes to the pecking order. You're getting the generic version, what a lot of people feel is the generic version. So he said the extra small t-shirt. Man, y'all know what I'm talking about, man. You go to Walmart or you go to like one of those stores where they had a sale and you want to get there and you overslept, you go to the store and all the good stuff is gone. Or not, if it's good, is not in your size anymore because everybody kind of just picked through the racks. Yeah, that's what it is. You buying an extra small t-shirt, right? Matt Canada is the next Saints OC. Yep. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, I would like that dude, because that way we can bring out the South Park song, Blame Canada. Blame Canada. Let's see. It's a shame. We probably are one of the most loyal fan bases, and we are going through this. I mean, look, I've seen worse, and I know people like, man, like, but I'm just saying, I've seen worse. Like, I seen when the Saints like really hot, like the hottest of hot garbage. I seen worse. So some of y'all, this is like shock to y'all. Like, this is like your Great Depression or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, like to me, this is like, it's probably Great Depression to you, but to me, it's like, I don't know. Right after, what I'm saying, like, I say like right after the war. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, people was kind of picking up the pieces, but at the same time, like, you had a couple of little positive things that were going on. Got the baby boom era. You got the auto industry, what I'm saying, being in full effect. Got the warehouse, so people was making money. It's not, it's still a little bit of a transition, you know what I'm saying? But because you got the guys who was drafted coming back from the war trying to get back into society, But for the most part, they had some real good things going on. Like right now, like some of you like 20 somethings that ain't never really experienced true Saints adversity. Like this is like Black Monday for y'all or something like that on Wall Street. Like just it's pretty funny, you know what I'm saying, when you think about it. But yeah, it's been worse. Hit that like button and subscribe to the SOTS. And I got to throw this in, and the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast on your way in. All right, if you're watching this on either platform, because once again, starting in February 1st, we no longer will be doing Gumbo Pod episodes on the state of the Saints. And also coming out this week, man, it's the first episode of the Unapologetic Podcast. It's gonna be a weekly, everyday podcast, like just talking about everyday things from pop culture, from life, like, and we can always just kind of put things into perspective, man. I'm excited about doing that podcast. So it's gonna be a weekly podcast. It's gonna come out like every single week. I want to say I'm gonna try to put it out every Thursday of every week. So I think you all will like it. It's a different perspective. If you probably want to get to know a little bit about me that, outside of the sports realm, you want to hear what I think about like certain things like movies, like I said, pop culture, politics, that type of stuff. We're gonna be talking about all that type of stuff on there. Let's see. One thing about the Saints, they get a little pride. They're gonna end up promoting Ronald Curry before they get the trash. Well, I wouldn't have no problem with that. Get that man opportunity. You don't know what a guy or a woman can do until you actually give them an opportunity. So there you go. TJ, what is the likelihood the new OC disrupts locker room morale? And do you think Mike T is out of here due to his recent tweets? I think Mike T is out of here. Definitely feel like Mike T is out of here. Number two, speaking of locker room morale, like Keen Arthur, my guy, like, how can morale get any lower than what it is right now? I mean, it's pretty bad already. So if anything, like, if anything, he has nothing to do but bring it back up. So I don't think it'll hurt team morale at all. If anything, it'll probably make it better than what it is. Them 90 Saint squads, it's excruciating. You ain't lying, man. Man, boys couldn't catch a cold in 40 below. Couldn't tackle a mat problem if it was 2+2. Telling you, man. Couldn't throw a party for their kids. Man, it was bad, man. It was bad back in them days. Like, it one thing to think that the Saints gonna win. Like, even as bad as we feel about the team now, that's still a part of us feel like, okay, man, they might be able to win. When you was growing up in the 90s watching the Saints, you know for a fact they weren't gonna win. Like, it's serious. Like, you about to watch the Saints? Nah, man, I'm good. I'm good, man. I don't need that type of stress in my life. You knew they were gonna lose. You know they was gonna lose, and it was gonna be. Look, there was some really funny shows on TVs in the 90s, right? I mean, I think about when I was growing up, like, yeah, in Living Color, and Martin just kind of came out too, and you had some funny shows, but I don't think there was a funnier thing to watch than New Orleans Saints on Sunday. I mean, straight pure comedy. You're gonna see somebody throwing the ball backwards. You're gonna see somebody tripping over their shoes. I mean, all you needed was like the Circus Barnum and Bailey circus theme song or something like that. Here Come the Clown. Like, it was pretty bad, man, and it was funny too at the same time. Like, it was funny. Like, the Saints could have won an Emmy for best comedy show, the way that they played on Sundays when I was growing up. But now it's like, I guess they try to be funny, but ain't nobody laughing. See, no wonder Lil Wayne, a Packers fan. Yeah, I mean, he said back in the days when he was growing up, the Saints were terrible, and they were. Look, you had to really love the Saints growing up. Like, growing up in my era, growing up in probably some of the 40 and 50 somethings, the 60s, if you're watching this, like, you had to really love the football team, like, in order for you to stick around. So that Super Bowl that they won, that meant something. That hit different. TJ, those football follies. Yeah, man, they should have called them football saints, because it just seemed like it was just so natural to them. Let's see. Fun fact. In Living Color is the very reason we now have a Super Bowl halftime show. Well, man, I did not know that. I didn't know that at all. Cha-ching shirts. Yeah, cha-ching shirts. That's when they had that little playoff run. What's going on? Got one. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. The 70s was worse. I can imagine. San Francisco 49ers and the original Los Angeles Rams were destroying us. Yep. They're the old NFC West right there. And let's see. Yeah, it was rough back in the day. Yeah, it definitely was rough. It was bad back in them days, man. You know the team was gonna lose. Like you knew they were gonna lose. It was just a matter of how much. We used to have conversations like, we know they're gonna lose, but how much? So but yeah, I mean, look, at least they formidable now. They might lose, but at least they didn't like embarrassingly lose. Like some games they were just out of control, but at least for the most part, they got a pretty decent product. TJ, outside of firing DA, what do you think will have to happen for us to be contenders? Well, for us to contend, play consistent football. Get yourself a coach that can lead men, consistently come up with game plans and don't get out coached constantly. And also be able to put together a coaching staff of individuals that can actually grow and become head coaches and, I don't know, put together a game plan and offensive and defensive strategies that aren't passe. So that's probably it, man. Like next year in 2024, the Saints will probably win some football games. They'll probably win some games with Dennis Allen, but it's not going to be sustainable success. It's just not. And it, like, to me, it's inevitable. Because right now, what the New Orleans Saints are doing, they're not trying to build on a coach with promise. They're basically trying to prop up a coach, trying to make him look the part. And it's only going to fail. Like, look, everybody remember Milli Vanilli. I used this a few episodes back, and for those that don't know who Milli Vanilli is, they were a popular pop group in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, they were hot. They were white hot. They had their own cartoons. They had action figures, all these different things that they had, right? But there were two guys from Germany, if I'm not mistaken, or France. France. They were from France. They rarely ever spoke English, and they were lip singing. They got an American singer to sing all of their songs, right? But if you look at Milli Vanilli, they were two nice looking guys, danced really well, looked the part, dressed the part, but they didn't have the vocals. That was not them. It was inauthentic. And that's what you have right now. You have the Milli Vanilli of coaches in Dennis Allen. You're basically trying to prop him up, right? You're trying to put a supporting cast around him, right? You're trying to put him, in the right spot to look the right way, to sound the right way. But he's not it. And it's only a matter of time. Like, he'll probably hit him out the park. But if you remove one of the elements that you have propped up to make him look successful, then he is going to fall to the ground. I'm telling you, it is what it is. This, to me, him coming back has very little to do with Dennis Allen performance and everything to do with Mickey Loomis trying to double down, because this is a guy who just does not want to admit that it wasn't the right decision. And we are paying the price right now. And like I said, it might be one of those seasons where he ended up doing good, but it's going to be a mixed bag and it's going to be inconsistent. In order for the Saints to get where they need to be, I want people to understand this. If you ain't hear nothing that I said here tonight, in order for the New Orleans Saints to get Dennis Allen to where he needs to be, the Saints are going to have to rid themselves of all of the players that we love and basically neuralize the entire locker room. And since nobody has that Men in Black neuralizer that Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones had, they're going to have to get rid of the guys that were from the Peyton regime, the players that you basically got to brain like just mind wipe those guys, right? Because they know what it's like to win. They know what it's like to be on the doorstep of prosperity. And now you have a coach that is having a hard time winning and not winning the way that they are accustomed to. So you're going to have to get rid of those guys, because those guys are going to be in your locker room telling the other guys like, man, I've been there. I know what it takes. Man, that ain't work. They're going to do that. So they're going to have to rid the locker room of all of those guys from that Sean Payton era, the ones that were responsible for helping the team win those 12 and 13 games. And then they're going to have to bring in young guys or guys that don't know Dennis Allen that well. That's what you're going to have to do. And the sad thing about it is the dude ain't even worth it. What has he shown? Like, to tell you, like, if you was to get rid of talented players like Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore and Michael Thomas and all these other players, what had he shown that he can be able to win with it? Like, he barely can win with the players that he got. They barely can find ways to utilize the players that could actually be beneficial to the team. And everybody knows that the offense and, you know what I'm saying, this coaching staff has been holding this team back. You see guys like Alontae Taylor and say, man, now it's time for these guys to really eat. Like, they know what's going on, man. But some of us, like, we like to stay in the dark. We like to pretend like nothing is really going on and it's right there in your face, hiding in plain sight. Man, but that's what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to, like, completely, like, just reset this entire locker room to get guys to buy in. And they're going to be a bunch of guys that's not really, they don't know anything other than DA's philosophies. So you're going to have to go with some guys that probably never won nothing or never been in the NFL. That's the only way that you can do it. Because everybody can see, that he ain't it. But I want to say thank you all for checking out this episode of the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast and the State of the Saints Podcast. And I'm just asking everybody, if you have some time, please stop by the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast and subscribe to the channel. We started that channel, really kind of pushing it. It's a podcast that kind of focuses on the NFL, college football or what have you. So if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast. And for those that are checking out this out on the State of the Saints Podcast, thank you all so much. I ask that you hit the like button, subscribe. You can check out previous episodes that are available on youtube.com. Got some streaming platforms that they're going to be on. I haven't been uploading because I've been having a little bit of a tough time being able to connect those all to my platforms and stuff. So I promise you, I'll start converting them down to audio form again. I know a lot of people enjoy those. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on social media on X at TJAYJones8. And you can follow on Facebook, facebook.com, search Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast. Really do appreciate everybody. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your love. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their night. For all those on the State of the Saints Podcast, all I got to say is who dat? And all those on the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast, well, all I got to say is I'll see you down the road.